As Rainey said, my focus is business law. I was actually a hedge fund attorney at Sidley Austin, LLP, a large law firm in Chicago. Our claim to fame is that the Obamas actually met at this firm. In thinking about my successes, right, my road to success was actually tattered with adversity and trauma. So I have my quote-unquote success story, but my family experienced homelessness when I was about 10 years old. And this happened because my parents were severely mentally ill. And so my mother would constantly try to keep up with her Section 8, to keep up with having a link card. And as many of you know, you have to go through a lot of paperwork and meetings and appointments in order to even access these services. And she was unable to do so. And so at about 10 years old, we were homeless. When I say we, I'm referring to my mother and my older sister. We were homeless for about 3 years until the state of Illinois revoked guardianship from both of my parents. My father certainly tried. He went to the Army in order to try to support us, but he also suffered from mental health issues. He had paranoid schizophrenia. He was discharged from the Army. He came back and we were homeless together. He was in one shelter and we were somewhere else, which I'll talk about a little later. As a ward of the state, I lived in 2 group homes and 3 foster homes. And then I went to college. I went to the University of Illinois, and I was able to go to the University of Illinois for free as a ward of the state. So the question I always get, the immediate question I get is, how did you do it? Did you have a magic wand that you simply waved to make all of these great things happen to you in spite of your trauma, in spite of your hardship? Are you supremely intelligent? Are you a genius? God, I wish I was, because I would not have had to work so hard in order to get what I have, right? So while I do take pride in all of the great traits that I do have, I take great pride in how hard I worked, I could not be here without the help of numerous organizations, institutions, and people. I like to refer to the help that I received as a mosaic. I've received this intricate mosaic of help, right? So in terms of programs, I was the recipient of a link card, subsidized housing, even as an adult, subsidized daycare, a free education. In terms of the people who have helped me, individuals such as Rainey Hayback, sitting right here, teachers, educators. And when I think of one piece of that mosaic, the McKinney-Vento Act immediately comes to mind. As we all know, education is the great equalizer. Because I was able to receive a top education, I am currently able to provide for my family, for my community, for my students. And so having said that, I want to take time at this juncture of the presentation to talk about how 3 core aspects of the McKinney-Vento Act directly relate to me and my story, and why these provisions mean so much in terms of helping people and youth like me. So first and foremost, the fact that the definition of homelessness is so broad under the McKinney-Vento Act is extremely important. As we all know, it doesn't simply cover individuals and youth who are living on the street, but it also covers individuals, youth, who are doubled up, okay, who are living in substandard housing. So what did that mean for me? So as a youth, our family was never actually in the streets. We spent about 6 months to a year doubled up with friends and family. I can't remember the number of families we were doubled up with. After that, my mother found this 1-room office space, which was in this semi-vacant building in Uptown, and she was able to pay maybe $100 or $200 in order for us to live there per month. This office space had no kitchen, it had no shower. There was this community bathroom we were able to use. So as a result, we would have to walk to the park districts in order to take showers. After that, we lived in hotels for a couple of years. And so we didn't have the kitchen for a total of 3 years. And at this point, I was about 13, The living situation for us was just dire. It wasn't simply about living in poverty, but there was also abuse and other issues going on. And then the state of Illinois revoked guardianship. And so as you can see, right, through my story, homelessness has a different face than simply just being on the streets. The next aspect, the natural transition, in talking about the broad definition of homelessness, would be the direct services that are guaranteed under the McKinney-Vento Act. Of course, food. It's hard for my peers to understand how in America we were without food, right? There are pantries, there's a swing card, but because my parents were dealing with mental health issues, my mother had manic episodes and she would be gone, sometimes we didn't have food. And the only food we had was the food provided to us at school, the free breakfast programs, the lunch. The fact that the McKinney-Vento Act guarantees this for homeless students is extremely important for obvious reasons. How can one think if you're hungry, right? Transportation. So at one point, we lived in Uptown. This is when we were in this one-room space. And then my mother, she was crafty. I laugh at how crafty my mother was. She got us into the school downtown. It was a private Catholic school. Didn't pay a dime of tuition, but she got us into the school. However, most of the time, we didn't have money for transportation. So for those of you from Chicago who are familiar with the areas, right, we would have to walk from uptown to downtown. This is about, maybe 6 miles or so. So imagine walking 6 miles to get to school. And then taking time after school, we would get to school and be exhausted, and then we would get home and be even more exhausted. I remember my sister and I trying to dig for change. We would go to Truman College, this community college up the street, and dig for change in the couches, look for change in the vending machines to try to avoid this long walk. But this actually is happening. It happens to students. And of course, books, right? If students can't even find access to transportation or food, books, field trips, fees, all of these other categories of expenses associated with getting an education. Students who experience what I experienced, who are currently going through, simply cannot access these resources. The last category under the McKinney-Vento Act that I want to talk about is going to the school of origin. So in talking about this category, I first want to talk about the time during my life when I was not able to go to my school of origin, and contrast those experiences with the times in which I was able to go to my school of origin. So during elementary school, for the most part, I was not able to go to my school of origin. I went to 6 different schools over the course of my elementary school education. It was an extremely difficult experience. I was bullied. My teachers couldn't really figure out what was going on because there was just so much movement. And we were just gone. We were from one place to the next place. And when you compare that experience to when I was able to stay in my school of origin, so this happened in 7th and 8th grade. And at this point, my teachers became aware that something severe was going on in the house. School became my safe haven. School is where I could cry. School was where I could talk to teachers. School was where they asked me questions and actually cared about what was going on with me. And this is when DCFS became involved, Department of Children and Family Services, and at this point they needed to become involved. And when they did become involved, because my teachers knew me, they provided help, and it's hard not to cry thinking about what they did for me during that time period. I only had the clothes on my back. My teachers brought me clothes, hygiene products. They let me sleep in their office. I was suffering from severe migraine headaches. And in 8th grade, I was valedictorian, and they celebrated my success and helped me to transition in high school. I was also able to stay in the same high school. High school wasn't easy. I had significant drops in my education. I started out getting straight A's. My sophomore and junior year, I was getting D's and F's because there was too much movement. Just moving around so many times. You guys are all familiar with these kinds of situations. But my teachers saw what was happening. They were able to contact the caseworkers. They were able to talk to me, figure out what was going on. My guidance counselor was extremely helpful in this regard as well. When I was having an issue with the foster care placement, because of these relationships, because I was able to stay in the same school, I was able to access the help that I needed in order to get to college. So, as you see from my story, and all of the stories that you have heard during this conference, all of the stories that you encounter every single day, I like to reiterate how great we are. And I use this word, great, as a way to show our unique and invaluable strengths. Our being people or youth who are at risk or going through some similar situations that I am going through or have gone through. So G stands for gifted. In spite of the trauma, in spite of everything that we are going through, that we have gone through, we are gifted. We have numerous talents, artistic skills, intelligence, and the world is, if we are given access to opportunities, it is incredible what we can achieve. R is for resilience. We are resilient, and I have been able to tap this tool throughout all of my educational and professional endeavors. E is for empathy. Because we have seen such a wide range of trauma, whether it's abuse in different forms, verbal, physical, sexual, living in multiple places. For me in particular, being a ward of the state, dealing with so many different kinds of people and situations, we have empathy. And I've been able to use that skill in the classroom. I have close to 100 students in my business organizations class, and they're dealing with a lot of issues in law school. And having that experience, being able to empathize, makes me a better professor. A is for adaptable. I can adapt, we can adapt to just about any situation. This is a valuable skill, right? For work, for school, for everything. T is for tenacity. As Rainey said, I would go and I would speak at group homes and speak to youth. And it is incredible to see their smiles, to see the optimism, to see the fight, the strength, just to get up every single day. And so, yeah, we all know we're great, we have so much potential. How does this greatness come into fruition? It's you. Everyone sitting in this room allows the world to see how great we are. Okay? And thank you. I always use this opportunity to say thank you. It's hard for me to go back within my very intricate mosaic to say thank you to everyone, but thank you.